Class attributes. In this lesson, I want to show you how to create class attributes. We will use the same code from the last lesson, but we will change it. An attribute is basically a variable that is attached to a class. The way you create an attribute is by first declaring its visibility, in our case it's public, and then its type. Let's say in our case it's an int. Let's call it num1. What I will do with attributes is basically replace this argument with attributes, so we can assign numbers to these attributes instead of the argument, and then we will calculate the attributes and output them. Let's begin. So we will create an attribute called num1 and another one called num2. We will give them both default values of 0. And let's replace them with the x and y, because we don't need the x and y anymore. And let's get rid of the x and y here and put them in the plus string in the output method. Basically, you can use we don't need them as an argument anymore. Alright. Basically, because it's public, we can use the attributes inside the class and outside of the class. So now when we run plus, it will calculate 0 plus 0, and here it will return a string with 2 zeros. And the result will also be 0. So how do we assign a value to num1 and num2? We can do it inside the class, give it a default value, but let's say it's another programmer using the class, so he will probably use it from his own code, from outside the class, let's say from the main. Let's first delete this, as it does not get any arguments anymore. Let's delete this. So the way we will assign attributes to the instance of our C class is by writing C dot and the name of the attribute. In our case, it's num1 and num2. Let's give this one value of 2. And let's copy it and change num1 to num2 and give it a value of 4. So this should output 2 plus 4 equals 6. So what we did here is basically make our code a little bit more dynamic, as now we can use the methods and not pass them any arguments, and we can declare the values we want to calculate anywhere we want, not only in the argument itself, and we can also change the values of the attributes and call the method again, and it will run again. It's just another way of using a class. you might not see the benefit as of now if it's a new concept to you, but yeah, it's a very powerful tool. So let's recap really fast. To declare a type, an attribute, we need to first declare its visibility, in our case it's public, then its type, which is int, like we do with a variable, and then give it a name, same way we do with a variable. To access it, we call the instance of the class, which is in our case C, and then call the name of the attribute, and then we can manipulate it because it's public, only because it's public. And inside the class, we just refer to it like a regular variable. As it's part of the class, we can refer to it as a variable itself. It's visible inside the scope of the class as it's a part of the class. Even if it's private, you can still access it within the class, and you can pass it within methods. As you can see, we use the same attributes in two different methods. Let's say you had a student object and you needed to do a calculation like the average of his marks and manipulate his data like his name and last name for different purposes with different functions. Using attributes would be very helpful, as you can set the data once and manipulate it many times inside many methods. And because it's a public attribute, you can manipulate it outside of the class and use the methods without even passing the values as an argument. This can have many uses. You can also use methods that do get arguments for some other reasons. You will see as I will show you more practical examples of how to code in the next lessons when we get to practical projects after we go through all the basic syntax. For now, I just want you to familiarize yourself with the syntax itself. I will also show you other ways to use methods and about scopes in the next lessons. And that's it for this lesson.